Hey guys, and this is the other thing, the buffering. Hey guys, it's Ted. Happy Thursday, October 11th. This is episode 258 of the Ted Show. Give us thumbs up, give us a sign, some love that you can hear us or see us. I'm in a different spot than I was earlier, so let us know. That's my biggest concern always, because I'm with my friend Diogo Esteves.
You got it.
All right. Only had to practice that in my head 400 times. So we're at the club. The buffering's a little off. I'm on my tablet. So give us a thumbs up. Hopefully you can hear us or see us. Hey guys, looking good. Sounds good. Love you, Shirley. Thank you so much. So we had some technical difficulties today. I can't tell you that that's not normal because I don't have a producer for the show. It's just me, and you guys all know I'm technically challenged, among other things. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I'm very excited. We've been trying to get together on this. Maggie Ennis, we've got to give her a shout out from the club. She's the one that said, you've got to meet him and talk to him, Ted. I'm like, all right, Maggie. You know, anything Maggie does, because Maggie always makes sure I'm taken care of in the mornings with my coffee. And so I started researching, and then Diogo sent me. I always want to say Diego, right? Diogo
That's
sent
my brother's
me.
name, believe it or not.
Oh my God! I
Yeah.
can't imagine. Oh, yeah, forget it. I'd never know which one was which.
Yep.
I'd call both of you Diego, unfortunately. But I read up and I saw about your book and your bio, and I think you have a fascinating story. So welcome.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. And yes, thank you, Maggie, for connecting us. It's always good to connect with good people. So thank you so much for that.
All right, so tell us a little bit about you. You speak Brazilian. I'm kidding. We were talking about that earlier. So he's from Brazil, and somebody yesterday kept going on and on about how they love this person. They love to hear them speak Brazilian. So he's from Brazil and speaks Portuguese, just for the record, in case people are going, Ted, what's so funny about that?
That's right.
So give us a little background on you.
So I'm originally from Brazil. I've lived in 6 different states in the U.S., so I've been here for about 16 years or so. Been married for about 17 years, and to my beautiful wife, Daniela.
You must have been young when you got married, or is that the Brazilian skin?
That's just the Brazilian skin. Actually, together for 17 years, married for 15. Let me just correct that before she catches me on the live and says
You're
I
right,
said the
you don't
wrong
want to
date.
mess that up.
2003, 15, 2018. So together for 17 though. But yeah, no, we were together. We got actually married. I was 18, she was 17.
Oh, so you were young.
Very young. But we're high school sweethearts. So
that's
we
awesome.
got married. I was 18, she was 17. We moved to the U.S. a year later, and we have 2 amazing sons.
Why did you move to the U.S.? Matthew and Luca,
Matthew
right?
and Luca, 10 and 4, yes.
Why did you move to the U.S.?
So most of the people that are moving to the U.S., they're seeking that dream life, right? There's something about this country that just is very appealing to people that are outside of it. So we all went in, you know. We moved to the U.S. to work and just build up a life. The original plan was to, put enough money together and move back to Brazil after 3 years. Obviously, 16 years later, we're still here.
And did you bring other family with you? Did other families start to come?
So my parents actually moved here afterwards with my brother and my sister as well. But we lived here back in 1999 as well when I was 14 years old for about 7 months or so. So that was the very first time I moved.
Your
to the
sister's
US.
name's not Diego, is
No,
it?
her name
Okay,
is
good.
Desiree. It
Oh
starts with a
God,
D as
another
well.
D, forget it. DDD, triple D.
Well, my wife's side is Daniela, Daniel, and Deborah, so that's triple
Oh my
D
God,
as
so
well.
you did Matthew and Luca, I
Meant
get
to
it,
be.
right?
Needed to break the
you had
streak.
that, separate that out. So you get here in the States, and then what was your dream when you got here? What did you want to do?
So the dream was just to work as much as I possibly could and put as much money as I could together. The first time I moved to the U.S. by myself, I was actually 17 years old. So I was here for about a year,
Wow.
and I was able to bring home quite a bit of dough. And
What'd you do, though? When you get here, did you already speak English?
I spoke very little English, and I actually worked as a busboy for 6 months at the winter season in Idaho, and I worked as a boat instructor for another 6 months in Arizona. No experience whatsoever.
Wow, that's good to know now. I'm sure those
Yeah.
people don't want to hear that. But you saved up enough money, and then you went back.
Exactly. So I worked, just like most people that come to the U.S., I worked as much as I possibly could, very little time off, worked a couple of jobs, and just really because we were trying to put money together, because one of the things that when you go to Brazil, at that time anyways, the dollar was 4 to 1. It's actually like that now.
Wow.
So, whatever I made here for that amount of time, it would actually be worth 4 times as much down there.
Wow.
And so it was a great experience. There's no doubt about that. But like I said, because my wife and I had been together for a couple of years already, there was no point in just being here all this time without her. So I decided to go back, get married, and then come back to the U.S.
And were your boys born here?
Both of my boys were born here. Yes, Celebration in Winter Park.
Oh, so when you come back, though, do you go back to being a busboy? Do you go back? Did you have other things that you wanted to accomplish, other things you wanted to get involved with?
So the main focus when I moved to the U.S. to work was just to really put money together. So I was willing to really do any type of work. I probably done 30 different types of positions over the years. We would move every 6 months because of the type of visa that we had. We were under a work visa, so we had to move every 6 months. That's why I've lived in so many different states. But there was no really picking and choosing. It was just whatever was available and whatever we could make the most money with.
Well, what was your ultimate dream, though? Did you have a job or a career that you wanted to steer toward, or did you get involved in real estate and the financial world by accident?
So not at that point. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. What we did know is that we didn't want to go the traditional route. We didn't want to go to school and then incur a bunch of debt like most people do, and then finally be able to get a job and pay it off. We wanted to work quite a bit in the beginning to be able to put enough money together to then buy a house and not have to go into debt. My wife actually went to school. She's an interior designer here in the U.S. I tried it a couple of times, but it just didn't work. But I actually stumbled upon real estate and everything else that I've done over the last few years.
And so when you stumble upon real estate, did somebody actually take you under their wing? Did you stumble because your wife became an interior designer? Is that how you kind of stumbled into it?
No, it was actually she became an interior designer afterwards. So back in 2000, so I've got into insurance in 2009. And I did that for a little bit until somebody came up to me and said, listen, I believe you would be very good at real estate. Why don't you give that a try? And once I tried it, I got hooked on it, and my wife became an interior designer afterwards because we would work a lot with Brazilian buyers that were buying vacation homes in the U.S. So we would sell the home and then she would actually design the entire home without the client even being here.
Hey, babe, that's my wife's son. Hey, babe, how you feeling? You could be an interior designer. She dresses me almost every day, so that's
a great job.
Thank you. Brazilian buyers. So talk about that. Why is there so much of an influx, and why are we such a popular destination for Brazilians?
Well, Brazilians, like I said, and I think most countries look at the U.S. as a model country. I always tell Americans that if you haven't learned how to appreciate what you have yet until you step outside of the country, because things are not as easy as they are here. So we're very grateful for this country. But Brazilians, they, like everybody else, they want a better life. And when they find a place that can actually provide them or allow them to develop a life that is worth living, a life that they can be proud of, that they embrace that opportunity and don't let it go. But things in Brazil are not as easy as they are in the U.S. because I always say that if you don't have money, you can't really enjoy your life because, well, you don't have money. If you have too much money, you can't really enjoy it either because you're always scared that someone's going to kidnap you or do something like that. So Brazilians see this place as an opportunity to be able to have the quality of life that they've never had in Brazil. I think that's the biggest part. And obviously when it comes to investing as well, it makes a lot of sense because you're investing in an economy that is strong versus a volatile economy like the Brazilian economy.
We do foreign national loans. We talked about that a few minutes ago. But what is it about coming here and purchasing a home that do you think of it like Brazilians, for example, that it's an easy process? What's your experience with that? Because we get a lot of people that want to pour money, especially into our area, because it's tourist destination, capital of the world, Disney and Universal and all of the wonderful things that we have just right here. I don't know what that means. So we're going to hit done. See, this is my problem. Maybe that's why it's slow today. But what is the process? Because I think people think, oh, you just come in, you slap down money, and all of a sudden you're Brazilian and you've got a house.
Like everything else in life, it is a process, right? So when you compare the process that we have in the U.S. when it comes to purchasing a home, for example, and I think for the most part, in opening a company or doing anything like that, it is a lot simpler than it is in the U.S. in Brazil, for example, because things really take a long time and there's so much paperwork involved. But it's not. It's a simple process, but it's not necessarily easy. So it's just a matter of sometimes they do come to the U.S. with an expectation that is just going to be they just, like you said, they're going to slap a bunch of money and things are just going to happen, and it doesn't really work that way. Yeah. So they do have to go through a process. But I think just having professionals like yourself, guiding them through a mortgage and myself like helping them get a home as well, I think it just makes the process a lot simpler as well.
So how did the journey come to the Kingsman Academy? how did you get from being in real estate, from working in the financial industry, or being in mortgages and being in investments? How did you come up with the idea of the Kingsman Academy? We've got a book here, but talk to them about the journey there.
So, like most, I always say that life is a journey, and just like everyone else, we all have our share of problems and challenges that we have to go through life, and it's just a matter of how we deal with them and the lessons that we learn along the way. Very few people are willing to go through, difficult times and challenges and actually come out the other side victorious and be willing to share with others so others don't have to go through the same thing. We've been very blessed, ever since we moved to the U.S. Like I said, this country has provided us with a life that we've always dreamed of, but never actually thought it would be possible, at least not in Brazil. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't always easy, and that's the reason with the book that we're going to be talking a little bit about later. But I wanted to be able to share with people the lessons that I learned along the way, because I believe that if a lesson is worth living, is worth learning, is worth sharing. And I think that if more people were to put themselves in that position, I think the world would be a much better place. But like I said, we moved to the U.S. very early, and we worked a lot. We're focused on being able to develop the life of our dreams. We didn't quite know what that life would look like, but we knew that, just like the American dream, we wanted to have the house with the white picket fence, the stuff that we see in the movies. And, things worked out very well up until a point in my life. We built a real estate business. Just to give you a little bit of background, I started a real estate business in 2014, and within a year we actually franchised the business, and within another year we opened about 15 locations between the U.S. and Brazil. So when you looked at my life on the outside, everything seemed like it was going so well, driving the big expensive cars, having the big company, I had a beautiful home, I have a great family, great parents, brother, sister, and everyone else. But what I didn't realize at the time is that inside I was dead. There was absolutely nothing on the inside. People would look at my life and would be, would wish that they actually could live a life like that. And all I could, would actually verbalize it, and all I could think to myself is, man, you have no idea what you're wishing for.
Right.
A couple of years ago, I actually got down on my knees at my house. This is the point. This is how bad it got. I got down on my knees at my house by myself, and I cried out to God, and I said, I don't even know if you exist anymore at this point, but if you do exist, then take my life, or give me purpose. So what I didn't realize up until that point in my life is that I was pursuing the wrong things. I'm not talking about the stuff being the wrong things, but I believe that, success and all the things that we so often look for, they should be byproducts of the main thing, which I believe is living out our purpose in life. Amen. Contributing to someone else's lives and improving it in any way, shape, or form. So at that point is where the journey really began. And this was a little over 2 years ago, April 2016, and my life was completely changed, because what I didn't tell you is that I suffered from depression for about 8 years. So everything that was built between the ages of 23 and 31 just about was built during those times. It was a very, very tough situation. And I think a lot of people go through it. They just don't realize that the things that they're pursuing in life are not the things that are ultimately.
Had you shared that? Was your wife, your family, were they aware of it?
So they were aware of it, not to the extent that what I was going through, because I felt like if I shared 100% of what I was going through, it would actually drive them mad.
Sure.
So I tried to hold back as much as I possibly could, but there were so many things that were going wrong that in my mind and my spirit, and I didn't quite understand this whole concept of spirit, soul, and body. So it was just a big mess. That's all it was.
And did you have a specific event that you think caused the depression? Was it clinical depression? Were you just not feeling fulfilled, and that was just driving you further and further into the depression?
So I always heard that it ran in my family, and it was a lie that I believed in. Not that it didn't run in my family, but that around the age of 23, that's when things really started. And I ended up buying into that lie. I usually tell people that because from that moment on, it wasn't a specific event. My son was born just a little bit before that as well, so did that trigger it in any way? I don't believe it did. I think it was more like believing that lie that around my family, depression just ran freely within, and it started around the age of 23 as well, for the most part.
And then how did you finally, so you prayed out to God, and did you have that all of a sudden epiphany moment where the whole thing changed, or did you just begin to change and work through it differently?
So it didn't change right away. That was the beginning of the change. I always seeked for help, so I was diagnosed, bipolar and depression, deep depression, and all these things as well. I was on heavy medication for 8 years, therapies, seeing psychologists, psychiatrists, but nothing seemed to work. That moment a couple of years ago is really when things started changing. I didn't change overnight. It didn't happen. It wasn't like a miracle that all of a sudden I was well. But there was a process that began in my life that I try to share as much as I possibly could, obviously through the book, because I want other people that are going through it as well to know that there's hope at the end of the tunnel. But it was a process nevertheless.
Because I think people will hear a story, they're like, wow, he's one of the lucky ones who automatically it just happened, the light went on, and I think people don't understand that you can have that epiphany, you can cry out to God, you can, wherever your heart is, wherever your soul is. I don't know why that message keeps coming up. But that doesn't mean that there isn't work to do on your part. You can have that moment where you feel like you're at the bottom of the barrel, but then in order to pull yourself up, you have to make some changes. So what did you do differently?
So to me, it wasn't, I always heard people say that, pull yourself back up, you can do this. And I tried this for a long time. That moment at my house was major for me, because that's the moment when I cried out to the only one, and even questioning his existence at that point. Crying out to him and saying, listen, I don't even know what to do at this point. On the outside, I have everything that anyone could possibly want, yet I am miserable. I don't know what to do at this point.
Right.
So the things that I did, one of the things that happened is there was a mentor that came into my life from Texas, and I actually ended up moving my family to Texas for a little bit, that just, for a period of time just poured into my life. He brought me into his home for 30 days, just to give you an idea,
wow.
after meeting me once,
wow.
which is something that you don't really hear people doing. But that's how bad things were, and I believe that everything that happens in life happens for a reason.
That's a little miracle.
It could never
right
happen
there.
any other way, exactly. Yeah. So it's a miracle that I'm here today. There's no doubt about that. But it was a process, nevertheless.
So when you go through go through the process, you feel like you're beginning to get your life back. You're feeling like there's a purpose. A lot of us go through that. You go through the bottom. You start to begin to figure out. You see the light at the end of the tunnel, which you mentioned before. But we don't take it to the next level where we're going to put our heart and soul into a book, or that we're going to launch the Kingsman Academy. Talk about that, because I think a lot of people stop at that thing. They've gotten their life together, and that's it. That's as much as they can do. Yeah. But in order to share it, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to put your heart and soul out there for everybody to see what you went through. And so how did you get to that point where you're like, this is what I need to do?
Yeah, so for the longest time, remember that at that point, I asked him to either take my life or give me purpose. I didn't feel like I was living a life of purpose up until that point. Even though everything on the outside looked beautiful, I was empty on the inside. So there's a very foundational belief that I have, is that every single one of us didn't just happen. This is my personal belief. I believe that we were created, uniquely created, this is important, uniquely created for a specific mission in this world. And I think that if you come from this mindset that you were uniquely created, fearfully and wonderfully made for a specific mission, that there's a purpose for you out there, I think your entire perspective on life changes. Because now you start on a path of finding out that purpose and being able to eventually fulfill that destiny that you were created for. So that's what gave me the light at the end of the tunnel. Coach Lou once said, I heard him speak a few months ago, and he said that everyone needs something to do, something to believe in. They need someone to love, and they need something to hope for. Those four things really changed my perspective drastically, because you're right. In order for me to get the message out of everything that I went through, in order to help other people, I would have to be vulnerable. As you go through the book, you're going to read some of the stories, especially now that you're meeting me in person, and you're going to realize, you're going to say to yourself, there's no way that he went through this. Yes, I did. But the reason I wanted to be vulnerable is I realized that people can connect when you're vulnerable.
Right.
If you saw the amount of calls of friends that have known me for 9 or 10 years, that have never, been able to share anything with me, that are now calling me up and saying, listen, can we get a cup of coffee? Can we talk a little bit? That's just been the best thing, because I know the miracle that I am. I know what's taking place in my life, and I want to be able to help others along their journey as well with it now.
Because I think once you allow yourself to be that vulnerable, you can save another person's life by being that vulnerable, because a lot of people go through life thinking that nobody else could possibly understand what they're going through. And it's because we as a society, we're not, especially men, are not really good at all about sharing that and being open about it. And so I've had many people say reach out to me after the show and say, oh my God, I'm so glad your guest shared that. I'm so glad. I thought I was the only one going through that or had experienced that. And so I want to encourage all of you to do what Diogo did. I almost called you Diego. Has done, because I think the more we do that, the more authentic and vulnerable we are, the more impactful we are, and the more we do get closer to what our purpose is, what we're uniquely created to do, which I love that.
Yeah, we're constantly being shaped by society. It's important to emphasize what you just said, especially like you said with men. We're taught to put on the mask and say, you're so tough, don't show your emotions, you can't do this, you can't do that. But the problem is that you keep pushing those feelings down. At one point or another, it's gonna explode. There's no doubt about it. I always say that a man specifically, because women it's easier for them to share. They usually have more friends than men have, so it's easier for them to get the emotions out. But with a man is normally a train wreck waiting to happen.
Right.
So you really got to make sure that you understand it.
It's true. Yeah. All right. So talk about, you can go to the book or to the academy.
Okay. So the story with the book, like I said, it's just our journey throughout life. Thank you so much. We put a lot of love and care into it, for sure.
I will share.
But we wanted to share, like I said, with others our experience, not just moving to another country at an early age, working like crazy, being able to achieve some really cool things in life as well. So the victories, but also the struggles, because I think this is where most people connect.
Amen.
The Kingsman Academy came into play because I wanted to find, I've read a lot of great books out there. I've attended a lot of great seminars. But the one thing that I noticed that we're lacking a lot is continuity. So you can read a great book and you can really be touched by it, but then what happens next? Right. You could go to a great seminar and then be pumped up, and then what happens next? So what we're in the process of doing with the Kingsman Academy, because mentorship has literally changed my life. I want to be able to help people to not only touch their lives and help them in any way, shape, or form at one point in their, one problem, whatever it is that they're going through, but I want them to be able to plug into a community of people that are willing to do that as well. Right. People that believe that they were created for a specific reason, and they're unique, they're special, and they went through a lot of hard times, but there was a reason why they went through those hard times, is that so they could help others along their journey as well. So the Kingsman Academy is really focused on helping people find their purpose, and most importantly, because this is one major thing that happened in my life, is be able to buy back their time so they can focus on what their purpose is. You and I know that a lot of people end up being so frustrated as they go through life because they are most likely doing something they can't stand for a living.
That's true.
They're making good money, they have all the nice stuff, but at the end of the day, when they go to bed, they're hating their lives, and you can only take so much of that. So I believe finding your purpose in life is crucial, but most people don't have time to be able to do that. And because my background is in financial planning, my focus today is on helping people buy back their time so they can take some time off and then focus on their purpose, because this is what I've done in the last 3 years.
So is the academy describe what the academy is? Is it a group of people that get together? Do you have mentorship? Give us an idea of what that means.
So the academy is based on mentorship, like I mentioned before. Now we're just starting this project now, so we're in the process of developing an app, which is being finalized now.
That's
cool.
Exactly.
So it's looking really, really cool. I'm really excited. But for the most part, we're going to be doing one-on-one work with people, and then be plugging them into the community. We want to do things such as personality assessments. We want to make sure that we help them structure a financial plan so they can eventually get there. Protect if they die too soon or live too long. Invest their money properly so they can create passive income. So it just depends. Obviously, the platform is going to evolve over time, but as of today, most of the work that's being done is being done on one-on-one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you want people to take away? So you want to read the book. Can you get the book online? Is there a Audible version, or can you buy it online and read it online?
So you can. If you go right on Amazon, you can actually get the hard copy of the book. You can get the PDF version as well, the ebook or a Kindle, and you can also get the audio version. So we got all of those ready.
Awesome.
Or you can go directly on the website, thekingsmanacademy.com, and get those as well.
What do you feel like now that you've come through that and you've written a book, you have the Kingsman Academy? Do you feel, can you define what your purpose is now? Do you feel closer to what that is, or being able to define it and explain it to people?
Yes, I believe now I'm on the right path. I think that because I really believe that there's a general purpose why we were created, which I believe is relationships and helping each other out in whatever it is that we need. And there's a specific purpose, which is that, maybe the function that you play in, the role you play in the world. So I've always been really good with numbers. I love planning. I love, strategizing. That's just always been my gift. And I believe that that's a major part of my purpose. I honestly, the one thing that drives me like crazy every morning when I wake up is to be able to see other people living out the lives that they want to live.
Right.
So I want to be that piece, the person that comes into their life to be able to design that life, that dream life, whatever that is, and be able to put it into practical steps that they can take to eventually get it. But so yeah, numbers, and then obviously the mentoring portion and helping people design their ideal life, whatever that may look
Has
like.
getting here changed your relationship with your wife and changed the way that you parent the boys?
Oh, there's no doubt about that. My life has been completely changed in the last couple of years. Like I said, the beginning was very rough, just like every change that every time you're stepping out of a comfort zone, every time there's a change happening in your life, it hurts, just like going to the gym and picking up new, heavier weights. But everything has changed. My marriage has improved tremendously. The relationship that I have with my kids, I see today myself as I've always wanted to see myself, but I couldn't. I see myself as a mentor. I see myself as an actual father that is being intentional with them, and not just a provider, which is where most people are today. Not because they want to, they just don't know any other way.
Right.
There's so many people out there that have no idea what to do. They don't know what they don't know.
They don't.
It's real simple. I think I heard you saying that. They don't
Absolutely.
know what
People
they
don't know. So, and if you have no point of reference, you
No.
don't have you haven't had a mentor around you, you don't have a family that might have pointed you in the right direction, and you're trying to figure out your way through this crazy world all by yourself, it's very easy to get lost, to get frustrated, to not know what you're supposed to do, and then you flail. I feel like people go from project to project, relationship to relationship, job to job, and they have no idea why they continue to do that pattern. And a lot of it is, I think most of it, has to do with the fact they don't know what their purpose is, and they don't know how to get there. They don't know how to wrap their arms around it because they haven't had that mentor that might have helped them through it. So I think it's super important. The Kingsman Academy is such a great idea, and the book, I can't wait to read it. But everybody, you haven't seen, maybe you've seen the comments, but people love what you're saying, and you are so, there's no fake. Like, you can't fake this. It's the first time we've met, so
It is.
we've only talked on the phone. Oh, see, she's crying. Don't cry, Juliana. You're going to make me cry. Already done that today. But I think that this is the part of the resonating part that we were talking about right before we went live. People want to feel engaged, and when they do, you hit them. You hit them in the heart, and people want it. They say they don't, but that's why they still tune in. That's why they watch privately later on. That's why they engage, and they want to see you. And this kind of stuff that Diogo is talking about, you can't make that up. That heart is out there for you. He's just basically shared his life and the dark times of his life and what he's done with that since that epiphany with the entire audience, and I think that that's such a blessing, my friend.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to share all of his contact information, how you get the book, how you can reach out to him, how you can be part of the Kingsman Academy when we share the show. Any parting words of wisdom for them, anything you want to share with them?
Yeah, I always tell people that I want you to keep in mind, like as you go through your day and just waking up each day, that you were uniquely created, as I mentioned before. There is a purpose for you in this world. There is a reason why you're so frustrated. Even though your life looks great on the outside, there's a reason why you're maybe feeling so empty on the inside. There's a mission for you to fulfill, and until you're able to step into that purpose and eventually fulfill that destiny, I don't think you're ever going to be able to fulfill that void in your heart. There are people out there that have gone down that path before. Try to connect with them. We were saying earlier, we live in a society where too many people wear masks.
Yeah.
It's hard to find people that are actually willing to share. And it's not because they're trying to be mean or anything like that. It's just they've been so hurt in the past that they're unable to open up their hearts again and be vulnerable. We've all been hurt. We've all been taken advantage of, but at the end of the day, if you're not willing to share with others, if you're not willing to be vulnerable, the wounds that you have deep down in your soul, they're never going to be healed. There's a reason why they're there. There's a reason why you're being exposed to this video today. Seek help. Just connect with someone that's been down that path before and find out what they did, what happened in their life for them to be able to reach their destiny and eventually fulfill their purpose as well. So just don't give up.
Don't give up. All right. We love you guys. Thanks, man, so much for coming on. That was awesome. All right. I'll share all of his information later. We love you guys. Talk to you soon. Mwah.